Good evening. I'd like to call the Monday, October 3rd, 2022 meeting of the Wilson School Board to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Here.
Mr. Hart?
Here.
Mrs. Casper?
Here.
Dr. Kennedy?
Here.
Mr. Martin?
Here.
Mr. McCray?
Here.
Mr. Negrini?
Here.
Mr. Schneider?
Here.
Mrs. Cocker?
Here.
9 present, 0 absent.
Please stand for the pledge to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no items under communication or public participation this evening. The board met in executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss personnel issues. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the Wilson School Board meeting held on September 19th, 2022, as attached.
So moved.
Mr. Martin, thank you. Do we have a second?
Casper.
Mrs. Casper, thank you. Any comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Payment of bills, Mr. Negrini.
Motion to approve the payment from the general fund in the amount of $7,571,663.16 as attached.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
McCray.
Mr. McCray, thank you. Any comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Hart?
Abstain.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
8 yes, 1 abstain.
Superintendent's report, Dr. Trickett.
Thank you, President Cocker. Tonight I present to you Superintendent's report, inclusive of personnel and program recommendations. Pretty light agenda items this particular week. Just want to call out and thank you to all of our substitute folks throughout the district, not just teachers, but also folks that substitute in a variety of other roles. It's hard to get folks right now in the market that we have. Sometimes it's even harder to get people just to fill in. Just want to thank those folks publicly for being willing to help us out.
Thank you, Dr. Trickett. Looking for a motion to approve superintendent's items 4.1 through 4.6 as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Martin, thank you. Dr. Kennedy, thank you. Any comments?
Ms. Cucker?
Yes.
Just point out in terms of resignations, Mr. Patterson is taking a job at Warwick High School. It's closer to home for him, and the decision is partly based upon daily commute. As far as Mr. Lavia, Reading School District offered him a higher step and column than what Wilson initially hired him at, so it's a significant pay raise for him. I think that's going to be a common theme throughout Berks County and the area in terms of, if you will, poaching and offering more money to join a school district. So I just wanted to point those out for this evening's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Negrini. Are there any other comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McCray,
Yes.
Mr. Negrini,
Yes.
Mr. Schneider,
Yes.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker.
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under field trips, request permission to approve a trip to West Point for about 43 JROTC students on November 19th, 2022 for a campus tour. Students will be chaperoned by Major New and SFC Amanon Gonzalez. They will depart at 5:30 a.m. and return around 7 p.m. Looking for a motion for 5.1.
So moved.
Mr. Martin, thank you. Do we have a second?
Schneider, second.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Any comments? It sounds like a neat trip. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Under Human Resources, 6.1, request approval of the revised job description for the Director of Special Education as attached. 6.2, request approval of the revised job description of Director of Human Resources as attached. 6.3, request approval of the revised job description for preschool lead supervisor as attached. 6.4, request approval of the HR generalist professional staff job description as attached. 6.5, request approval of the HR generalist support staff job description as attached. 6.6, request approval of the personnel information systems specialist job description as attached. 6.7, request approval of the revised job description for assistant superintendent for teaching and learning as attached. 6.8, request approval of the assistant superintendent for student services and programs job description as attached. 6.9, request approval of the food services stipend for Laura Stemko in the amount of $200 per week beginning approximately January 2nd, 2023, and ending approximately March 1st, 2023. Looking for a motion to approve Human Resources items 6.1 through 6.9 as presented. Mr. Hart, thank you. Do we have a second?
Casper.
Mrs. Casper, thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Martin?
Okay, Ben. I just got a quick question because I'm still confused a little bit. We had an executive session which obviously was to discuss certain things. This approval is not for the structure, just for the positions.
Right, it's for the job descriptions themselves.
All right, has nothing to do with what was shown. Okay, all right, thank you.
So one point of clarification, in two of the job descriptions included in both of the assistant superintendent revisions, one of the items does list the direct reports. So those particular items, it does reference those folks who would be reporting directly to them.
Okay.
If I could, President Cocker, just describe a little bit more for our community and for those watching at home, some of the items that are on this list. So just briefly, as everyone is aware, I've been in this role, in this seat, roughly for 4 or 5 months, if you include the time as an interim superintendent. Prior to that, I've spent 20 years in the organization working teacher, assistant principal, principal, director of technology, assistant superintendent, and now in this role. When I took the seat here, I started to see things, through a slightly different perspective. I think every change in job that you have allows you to garner, different perspectives and things that you see and things that are working well, and quite frankly, from my lens, things that need to improve. We are a strong organization. We're a good school district. In many facets, we're excellent, but not in all of them. So my goal and the charge by the board in this community is to get better every single year. So I've taken the last 5 months and I've analyzed our system, the system of the Wilson School District, the subsystems that feed into that. I've looked at the things that I think we do well. We've reviewed the data, as we've talked about previously publicly. We've identified our strategic mission, our vision, we've looked at our goals for this year. And in short, I believe that these revisions that you see tonight in the job descriptions and how they are reworked will allow us to better achieve those goals. It'll create a structure that will be more efficient. It'll create a structure that will provide the type of coaching and support and leadership and guidance that people need to take their divisions to the highest level and ultimately better serve kids. That's why we're here. So tonight you see a bunch of revisions. Those are just changes, right? That's verbiage change within the job descriptions. You're also going to see a request approval. That those particular jobs are jobs that are new. So we're revamping our HR department. We're changing the structure. We're reallocating resources from other divisions and departments to strengthen those areas of the goals that we previously discussed. Everything that you see here tonight does not impact the budget in a negative way. It's all within the confines of what was budgeted back when we did our budget work last year. Tonight, you will not see the proposed organizational chart. That'll be coming in a future board meeting for the community and most specifically our employee groups to understand how the structures will shift. But that's what you see inclusive of item 6 tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Trickett. Mr. Hart? No? Okay. Any other discussion?
I would just say I appreciate the time that Dr. Trickett and the team has put into this. I think there's probably a lot of good in here. I just think it's very limited time for us as a board to review it and move forward with it. So that's why I'll be voting no.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, I would just like to, oh, yeah, Mr. Hart, go ahead.
I just, from the HR perspective, from our committee, these are just putting out the job descriptions for the organizational chart that will be coming in the future. So they need to be clearly defined so we can move forward and take the steps in the proper direction to make us stronger in the areas we might not be so strong in. So that's all I want to say.
I just want to add a few comments. I think we just received this on Friday. We looked at it, we talked about it in the executive session, and I think it's being pushed through too quickly also. And I'm kind of a little bit disappointed because I think there was a lot of good comments, both for and against it, and I think we should have just maybe not rushed this through, so that's it.
Okay, and just to reiterate Mr. Hart's comments, that tonight, currently, we're approving the job descriptions themselves. The structure, obviously, would be a different evening. Any other discussion? Okay, I just wanted to point out really quickly, while I've been on the board, 5-ish years, I've been involved in the district for a very long time, 20 plus, and every time we have a new superintendent, most of the times they were from outside of the district. They come in with this, previous experience from other school districts, but also this previously constructed idea of how a school district should function. And I think it's interesting to have a different perspective from Dr. Trickett because he knows how our district functions because he's been here in a variety of different roles. And from the top, as the superintendent position for, the interim time as well as over the summer and the beginning of the school year, you've been able to see how it functions as it is from your new position. So I think I appreciate the time that the whole team has put into how this new structure, the new job descriptions tonight would work. And I trust that you have some really professional insight from your team as well as from yourself. So I appreciate the time and the thought that was put into this. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. McCray?
No.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
No,
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
7 yes, 2 no.
Under Student Services, 7.1, request approval of an affiliation agreement with Alvernia University to host occupational therapy and physical therapy students for practicum hours as attached. 7.2, request approval of the agreement between Wilson School District and the Antietam School District to educate one special education student with vision support services, which includes one-on-one support, learning support, and life skill support, for a total of $109,000 for the 22-23 school year. Antietam will be billed on a quarterly basis. 7.3, request approval of an affiliation agreement with Eastern University to host school health supervisory students for seminar and practicum hours as attached. Looking for a motion to approve student services items 7.1 through 7.3 as presented. Mr. Hart, thank you. Looking for a
Casper.
second. Mrs. Casper, thank you. Any discussion?
I would just like to point out, just so everyone's clear in the community, that for 7.2, that is not a cost to us of $109,000. Excuse me. It's a cost to the Antietam School District paid to us for supporting their student.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under childcare, 8.1, request approval of a $2,000 retention bonus for childcare staff as attached from the Workforce Support Grant issued by the Office of Child Development. 8.2, request approval of the addition of pre-K counts to the 2022-23 childcare tuition rates previously board approved. Looking for a motion to approve childcare items 8.1 through 8.2 as presented.
Schneider, so moved.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Do we have a second? Dr. Kennedy, thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Martin?
I just want to make a note that the bonuses are paid out of a grant, and it has no impact on the taxpayers of our district.
Thank you for that, Mr. Martin. Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Okay, that brings us to our committee reports. BCTC, Mrs. Casper?
Yes. Thank you, President Cocker. Our last meeting was held at the West Campus on September 28th. There wasn't much to report this month, other than we have a few recipients of awards from the Ole Fair that was held last month. Avery Smith took second place in the basket and handle category. Jaylene Beltran del Rio took fourth place in the basket with handle category. And Ashley Mengel took second place in the Get Well Sympathy category. All three students are enrolled at BCTC's horticulture program, so congratulations to them. And then one last announcement, the Berks Career and Technical Center National Technical Honor Society induction ceremony will be held on Wednesday, October 12th at 6:30 p.m. at the Schuylkill Valley High School auditorium. So that's my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Casper. Would you like to jump into student services?
Yes, student services, we did not meet, but we rescheduled our meeting from October 5th to October the 12th at 4 p.m.
Okay, thank you. BCIU, Dr. Kennedy?
The BCIU has not met since our last board meeting, but we did have a curriculum committee meeting. We first talked about the pre-K counts programming and then the workforce development grant that we just approved tonight. These teachers have been busy with their professional learning. The first early dismissal day was this past Wednesday, and the focus for learning goals was the elementary teachers focused on the learning environment, and the secondary teachers are focusing on assessments. The next full professional learning day is next Monday, 10/10. For the high school courses for the 23-24 school year, we reviewed the process that it takes to approve a course, and that talked about limiting the amount of new courses, focusing on what we have, and focusing on, we really want our high school teachers to focus on revising the assessments in the courses we already have. We looked at the Wilson Virtual Academy. We talked about how they're kind of revising the course catalog to make it better match with what we offer here already at the high school. Trying to align and streamline the virtual offerings to match the ones we offer face-to-face. Our goal would be to kind of make them interchangeable and have as many of our teachers teach the courses eventually as possible and not even use a third party. Now, that's years down the road, but it's a goal. We talked about the department chair stipends. There's going to be stipends for the elementary liaisons as well as the 6 to 12 department chairs and the K to 12 department chairs. They're going to next go to human resources, and they have been budgeted for the 22-23 school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. Berks EIT, Mrs. Schlossman.
Good evening. The Berks EIT Tax Collection Committee met for our quarterly meeting on September 29th, and we reviewed their June, July, and August financial statements, which came in very strong. We also reviewed the year-to-date September EIT distributions, which were fantastic, which is, if it's good news for EIT, it's good news for all the school districts and the municipalities. So they collected and distributed $15.6 million over the same period last year, or 14%, and 13% better than budget. So that's really great news, as we are seeing also in our school district, EIT revenue is very strong, which is great news for everyone. There was also a review of the business privilege tax program, which they are trying to consolidate into one uniform enforcement program, where there's several municipalities that, in school districts, that have their BPT tax collected by EIT. And they have different resolutions and regulations, so they have hired Attorney Brown to kind of make that consistent across the county for who they're collecting for, so that program can be underway shortly. There's also now movement by the solicitor to file complaints for delinquent EIT filers. So these are employers who are not turning over EIT collections that they have withheld from their employees. So we are helping those taxpayers come into compliance with the law, and he has filed 10 of those complaints, and we're looking forward to seeing those taxpayers becoming compliant. Our next meeting is December 15th, in which we are, believe it or not, going to be approving the calendar year 2023 budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Extracurricular Committee, we have not met since the last meeting. However, we have a joint meeting with facilities this upcoming Monday, October 10th at 4:30 p.m. I'm assuming in this room, since it's going to be a larger group. And we will be discussing possible, well, a variety of topics, but the main focus will be the possibility of continuing discussion on our feasibility study and high school campus improvements. So, Facilities Committee, Mr. Case, did I just steal your
You stole it
comment?
all. No, but the only thing I would add is with the joint facilities and extracurricular meeting on Monday at 4:30 in this room, is there's going to be a presentation with regard to preliminary drawings and preliminary budget for the Performing Arts Center. So, thanks. That's it.
Thank you for adding that, and our collaboration today is going to be continued next Monday. So,
Yes.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Mr. Negrini, Finance Committee.
We met earlier today. We discussed a number of topics. Revision of board policies 611 through 615 are in the early stages. We received Wilson Preschool and Childcare updates, as well as food services updates, specifically with childcare and food services. Fund balances are currently operating with 6 months of expenses covered. To date, comparing September of 2022 versus September of 2021, the average lunches served has decreased by 120 per day, and the average breakfast served has decreased about 600 a day. Obviously, there's no longer universal free breakfast and lunch. However, recently, I believe it started today, Governor Wolf has provided funds to allow for free breakfast throughout the course of the school year. So that number may change as we see things moving forward. Year-to-date financial summaries, we're almost at the end of those fiscal year. It is showing currently that we will have an excess of about $5.5 million. The revenues were above budget. Earned income taxes, business privilege taxes, transfer taxes, and interim estate taxes were all up, showing a strong local economy here. There will be on the next agenda a recommendation coming from the Finance Committee to assign those excess revenues of approximately $3 million into the capital reserve and any excess above $3 million to a committed fund balance for enrollment expansion projects. And as indicated earlier, we are in the process of the 23-24 budget calendar. Just a reminder to the community, on January 17th of 2023, the proposed preliminary budget would be due to be voted upon unless the board opts out not to exceed the Act 1 adjusted index, which is something that Wilson has done over the last several years. The proposed final budget would be voted upon May 15th, 2023, final budget June 19th, 23. As of the information was provided today in our meeting, the base Act 1 index for 23-24 is 4.1% or 1.18 mils. The adjusted Act 1 index, which Wilson qualifies under, is 5% or 1.43 mils. So we have a lot of work ahead of us moving forward as we are still waiting on the audit process to complete, and then we'll move on to the 23-24 budget process. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Negrini. Legislative, Mr. Martin?
There's not much happening, as you know. They're only in for about 5 days this month. That's the Senate, and 3 days for the House, and then only a couple days for the rest of the year. So a lot more will hit the pavement after the election. So we'll just wait and see what happens and see where we start from the new year.
All right, thank you, Mr. Martin. Human Resources, Mr. Hart?
Just want to thank the board for getting the job descriptions approved so that we can look at the whole picture of the Human Resources Department as they continue to look in areas they can develop. So thank you. And no report other than that.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Public Relations, Mrs. Troutman.
Thank you. I just have a couple items first. I wanted to announce that the Wilson School District will be celebrating our homecoming this Friday, October 7th. The night kicks off with the induction of our 2022 Wilson Athletic Hall of Fame inductees. That event will take place at 5 p.m. right here in this room. This year's class includes Kristen Davidson, Kevin Ford, Allie Miller Javier, Travis Moser, and Hillary Yo. And our newest inductees will also be honored on the field during halftime. Then we invite the entire community to come cheer on the Bulldogs as they take on Hempfield. Our homecoming court will also be recognized during halftime, as well as the crowning of our homecoming king and queen. So we certainly invite our entire community to celebrate homecoming with us this Friday night. I also wanted to mention that Wilson 2021 graduate Tyler Boland was featured on the front page of the Reading Eagle yesterday. I don't know if any of you saw that article. So Tyler, who again graduated last year, interviewed over 50 World War II veterans and recently held a backyard dinner party for 10 of those veterans, which is considered to be one of the largest gatherings of World War II veterans in recent years. Tyler began interviewing veterans as part of his senior project here at Wilson for Mr. Smith's World War II class. So today I actually was talking with Mr. Smith about this, and he mentioned that Tyler is planning to come visit his current classes next week, and Tyler will be bringing a World War II veteran to talk to our current students, which I think is pretty cool. So we really are super proud of Tyler and all his work to keep history alive. The article was great. If you didn't get a chance to see it, you can also read it online, and it's also out in the board out front here. We also would like to congratulate our Wilson students, Sindura Sridhar, Isabella Vitalis, and Lawrence Zhang for being chosen to represent the Reading Musical Foundation at their annual Berks Shines fundraiser. Only 8 students from across Berks County who received scholarship music lessons and instruments from RMF were selected to perform at the annual event. So of that 8, we had 3 of them, which is pretty cool. So Sindura, Isabella, and Lawrence created the Wilson Chamber Trio, and they delighted the audience with their performance. The Wilson School District and the Wilson Education Foundation sponsored the event, and members of our music department attended to support our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Troutman. Education Foundation, Mr. Case.
No report. Thanks.
Thanks. Technology Committee, Mr. McCray.
No report. Our next meeting is October 17th.
Thank you. Student Outreach, Ms. Danny Radish.
Hi. Congratulations to 12th grade student Claire Hinkle for winning the Berks Outstanding Young Woman Scholarship Contest. Claire was among 9 girls, each from different high schools within the county. In addition to achieving the overall title, Claire also won the categories of the interview and performing arts. Thank you for representing Wilson so eloquently. Congratulations to Wilson's golf team, which won the BCI AA 2022 championships on Wednesday. Saturday was the annual whiteout football game, and Wilson beat Governor Mifflin 32-14 in the pouring rain. Go Dogs! Last week, the 11th grade biology classes traveled to Nolde Forest and explored local wildlife. Last Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, the Wilson Theater Company performed The Curious Savage, which was their first production of the year. The students did a great job conveying their characters. This Friday is the annual Pink Out game hosted by student government. Proceeds go to the Berks County Breast Cancer Support Services, and we have sold over 560 shirts. In addition, it is also the homecoming game. Hope to see you there in your pink.
Thank you, Danny. Mr. Maravich, do you have an update? Of course. Okay, thank you. We have no public participation on non-agenda items this evening. Any other business from the board? Dr. Kennedy?
I was lucky enough to go to one of my favorite sporting events of all in Wilson. When Lincoln Park plays Van Reed. I'm so sad it wasn't the last game this year. I always liked it when it was the last game. But to walk in and see both sides in gold shirts for Ryder, at that, it was, and to see his whole family there, it was, I'm so mad it rained, because it was like a true vision of our community. And for anybody that says there's this West versus Southern rivalry, I dare you to go to that game, because it was absolutely powerful, and that's what our community is about. And it rained and poured, and lightning and thundered, and we had to, the Mighty Mites game was canceled for like 2 hours, and then we finally played, the big 7th graders versus 7th graders game, and it was just so much fun, because I have a 7th grader, and he plays against his best friends, and the smack talk in the game was like, hey, I'm going to knock that ball out of your hand eventually. And then the quarterback says, yeah, you're getting really close. Like that was the talk on the field between friends. And I'm so thankful that my children are able to participate in multiple sports, multiple activities. And I happened to be up at the high school and talking to Dr. Weber, And I don't ever worry about our kids that are part of an activity here at Wilson. And I think, one of our goals when we're thinking about a place to learn, to love, to live, and go to school, we have to figure out a way for each and every one of our students to have some sort of a connection to this school, whether it's sports, whether it's drama, whether it's music, whether it's virtual gaming. I don't care, but they have to have that connection because for every connection they have, that's one less kid that we have to, worry about, going down the wrong path. If they just have one connection at school, that's one more chance they have to find a reason to want to be here and want to do well. So it was, a really great time to be part of the Wilson community.
Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. Other business or comments?
I just want
Mr.
to
Green?
follow up on Dr. Kennedy's comments regarding, seeing that support for the Knechtel family. And I think it also deserves recognition that the local law enforcement community that was part of the services for the Knechtel family was incredibly special. That Ryder, was an honorary police officer, and to see the number of men and women that were in uniform there speaks volumes to the community that we live in. And these were law enforcement officials that did not necessarily cover the Wilson jurisdiction, but to see that certainly is something that deserves to be recognized. And so I thank the men and women in blue that were part of that very difficult day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Negrini. Mr. Martin?
Yes. This won't be too long tonight. I'll save that for the next meeting, but I know we all get calls from taxpayers, emails, et cetera, about why we don't have our meetings at a more convenient time toward the evening or late afternoon. And we've kicked this around before. I think if we go to a committee of whole type structure where we have committee meetings, the first meeting of the month, and then vote on things in the second meeting of the month, I think it actually saves time overall, and it would be more transparent. And, even though it may be only 10% of our community, but a lot of folks would like to make some of these meetings, and I think we should consider that. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Martin. Any other discussion? Okay, looking for a motion to adjourn.
Schneider.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Meeting adjourned.